Good morning and welcome to the second day of MALMS 2020 Virtual. We're pleased to have you join us for the Military Aviation Logistics and Maintenance Symposium. I'm Ed Hazelwood, the retired Editor-in-Chief of Conferences at Aviation Week Network. To all of our sponsors this year, thank you so very, very much. And a hearty thank you to LOA, the Logistics Officer Association, for its support. The synergy between our two organizations is absolutely fabulous. This is an opportunity for all of you for critical debate and idea sharing. It's a challenging time for the industry and for the military alike. So let's use this event to help us resolve that and find a way out. When you signed up for MALMS 2020 Virtual, if you opted out of networking, I highly encourage you to opt back in, because this is the opportunity to connect with the attendees. And if you opted out, you can't do that. Remember, you can do this just to network with like-minded people. It does not have to be a direct buy-sell effort. Also, set up a meeting with friends, people that you know in the industry that you've not been able to see face-to-face for a while. Also, look through the various sessions that we have, decide which ones that you want to add to your schedule, and then do that, okay? All sessions are broadcast live. You can take part by asking questions. We're really very pleased with the top-notch speakers that we have. The Air Force, the Navy, the Army are all very well represented here. Now, that's true among the speakers, but it's also true among all of you who are attending. We have a lot of people from the services and the DoD and service civilians who have signed up who are attending here. So you'll find them too if you set up some meetings. Our keynote speaker this morning is Brigadier General Linda Hurry. She is the Director of Logistics and the Deputy Chief of Staff for Logistics, Engineering and Force Protection, Headquarters, United States Air Force. She's responsible for organizing, training, and equipping more than 180,000 logisticians who maintain and support mission generation and aerospace weapons systems inventory around the nation. Today, she's going to focus on Project Tesseract. Tesseract is named after an energy cube that was featured in the Avengers films. It evolved from the efforts of two airmen who were embedded at Delta Airlines and at Amazon. This session will update the expanding status of Project Tesseract and its vision to drive culture change and positively affect Air Force readiness. The results are already happening. So with that, Linda, it is over to you.
All right, so good morning, everyone, and thank you so much for allowing me to join you this morning. And I have the distinct honor to share with you how our Air Force logisticians are driving some really big changes throughout our collective teams. As I'm sure many of you are aware, our new chief has laid out some pretty clear roadmap for all of us. We need to accelerate change or lose. And if we don't, or if we fail to adapt, we really put at risk our ability to remain the most dominant and respected Air Force in the world. This change, however, requires us to collaborate, and it requires us to work differently and partner with the services and our allies and industry and partners in academia. And we need to streamline our processes and really incentivize intelligent risk-taking. But most important, we gotta empower our greatest asset that we have, our high-tech airmen that bring a digital mindset to our Air Force. So I would submit to you that these airmen are really who can solve our nation's biggest problems. And if we encourage them and we support them and we support their ingenuity and their collective diversity of thought, I really think we can accomplish anything. And so that's really what I'm going to talk to you about today. Really, these airmen who I believe wholeheartedly will help us solve literally anything, because they think differently than you do and I do. I have an analog brain. These are digital airmen, and they grew up with technology and internet at their fingertips. So as we drive change, we need to capitalize on each and every one of these aspects as we drive logistics for tomorrow throughout the joint force. So go ahead and move to the next slide. So what does tomorrow look like? I would submit that our task really remains the same. We have a global mission, we have a work in a joint environment, and we have to be increasingly cognizant of the cyber readiness and the cyber challenges that are at our fingertips. But we got a few other challenges that we have to deal with as well. We're going to have to think about dealing with tightening budgets. We're going to have to deal with aging aircraft and diminishing sources of supply, parts obsolescence issues, and in our case, a much younger workforce. And so as we try to set out and meet the requirements that are set forth in our national defense strategy, our logisticians, we can't be complacent. We can't rely on the status quo. We have to be resilient, we have to adapt, and we have to become more effective and more efficient. And I would say that this is not something that's unique to the Air Force. This is something that all the services have to do. So from an Air Force perspective, here's our challenge. We have a fleet of about 5,400 aircraft. Their average age is about 29 years old. Heck, our bombers average about 40 years old. And if you look at the B-52, that's about 60. And oh, by the way, it's not going anywhere for a while. Among other things, we've got a litany of structural challenges. We've got corrosion issues to deal with. Some of our repair and our spares requirements are up about 26%. Procurements and mods are up about 19%. And if you look at our budget, well, let's just say we've pretty much hit the high water mark for the DoD for a while, which means our team and your team and the team that's represented by this great forum, we're likely going to have to think differently. We're going to have to look at how we do things and find a better way to support and sustain the aircraft that we have. And this is going to take a team. So speaking of our team, it's getting younger and younger. So for perspective, in 1995, 38% of our maintainers had less than 6 years of service. Today, that number's over 52%. Over half of our maintainers on our flight line have less than 6 years of service. So to overcome these challenges, what I would submit is that we need leadership, we need innovation, and we need teamwork. After all, I very much see logistics as a team sport. And if we're going to continue to succeed in our emerging security environment, we need these team of logisticians to outthink, out-partner, and out-innovate not only our logistics forefathers, but also the enemy. Because quite frankly, the enemy gets a vote. We don't have a preordained right to victory any longer. But that's exactly what we're doing. And we've been supported by our chief and our secretary the whole way. We are accelerating change in the logistics universe. We are learning to think differently, and we are learning how to get after complex problems in a much faster manner. Most importantly, we're trying to learn how to make better use of our airmen's time by unlocking the unrealized capability and capacity that already exists in our enterprise. Now, to help us get there faster, we created a strategy and a framework to focus on a couple of the specific actions that we have. Next slide, please. So the sustainment strategy framework. Now, a lot of you have probably seen or heard about this before, but the SSF, for short, quite frankly, was the opportunity of a lifetime. It was the green light, essentially, from our chief and our secretary to fundamentally change how we get to do logistics in our Air Force. Specifically, we were asked to come up with 3 or 4 major lines of effort that materially improve sustainment, increase readiness, and control cost. And the only stipulation in all of this that we were given is that it can't take authority away from the operational units, and it has to survive an NDS fight. And so the 4 pieces on the puzzle that you see there basically became our 4 major lines of efforts. We're going to get after mission generation, we're going to improve the supply chain, we're going to expand our repair networks, and we're going to get after data analytics and better analytic methods. After all, everybody on this call knows in logistics, we have a litany of data. We're really, really good at reporting the news. Perhaps we can become more predictive. And that's exactly what we are trying to do. The SSF really increases our operational readiness by identifying leading process changes and getting after material solutions so we can improve our sustainment. So I had the distinct honor to be able to lead the team that actually developed this. And trust me when I tell you, I encourage the collective team to think differently, to push the envelope, challenge the status quo, and come up with an implementation plan that really pushes our ability to increase readiness and asset availability. And we did just that. You can see the 4 lines of effort there on our screen. And along with it come about another 200 tasks that I'm proud to say we've already started implementing. Now, I'm not going to do a deep dive on those 200 tasks, but I will share just a little bit about some of the goodness that we've already been able to do. Partially because of the great work that our Tesseract team has been able to institutionalize, as well as the other great digital thinkers in our Air Force. So first and foremost, we did theory of constraints. We started applying this industry-proven method at a lot of our different organizations on the flight line. So we started this concept based on the art of the possible that was done in the depot. Well, if it worked in the ALCs, and given the fact that all logistics is process-based, then why can't we bring the same theory of constraints concept and put it out on our flight lines and in our back shops and in our logistics squadrons and munitions squadrons and in the deployment processing line? And I can tell you we absolutely can, and we have. And it's driven some very huge gains out of pilot bases out at Fairchild and Shaw and Ellsworth. So just as an example, for this one alone, Fairchild, by streamlining our routine inspection process, was basically be able to create an additional 1,500 days of availability for the 135s. What that translated to is 4 extra tails per day. Now we've had a lot of goodness going on at Ellsworth and Shaw. Basically their MC rates jumped about 14%, but really what's great now is now we're starting to expand it across the board. 18 different locations that get to do this. So lots of goodness in LOA2, which is our supply chain, implementing a new supply chain process that allows us to increase the breadth of our parts, to dual sourcing critical parts. Huge wins there with no additional resources. Amazing partnership with DLA and the Air Force to get this off the ground. Our repair networks have also been expanded tremendously, added an extra 600 part numbers and an additional 9 new networks in just 6 months. Obviously for data analytics, we're trying to get after from a more proactive maintenance approach through CBM Plus and so on and so forth. Adding a new log cop. But all these great things that I've talked to you briefly about here, a lot of them came from the ideas of these digital airmen that I keep telling you about. And these great ideas, the sustainment framework, if you ask anyone in logistics enterprise, this is the backbone of where we're going over the next couple of years to drive change in our Air Force. And when I said this goodness came from a team of airmen, I'm not talking about, colonels and GS-15s and GOs. They were young NCOs and captains and majors, and some of which just graduated from education with industry, specifically like you heard out at Delta and Amazon, but also out at the other organizations that you all represent, Lockheed Martin, FedEx, UPS, Tesla, you name it. That's how we learned how to drive the change that we so desperately needed. And so thanks. Yes, this idea came up from 2 young superstars, as Ed highlighted earlier, and yes, it's named after a power cube in the Avengers movie. But you know what? It's innovating, and we're driving change, and quite frankly, it's the accelerator that we all needed. Next slide. So what is this Tesseract idea? So really, because the SSF was so important, we actually stood up this team specifically so that we can implement and drive and inspire innovation and accelerate change within our collective enterprise. Now, this Tesseract team that we launched over the past year, it's not huge. In fact, it's only 16 folks strong, and quite frankly, half of them haven't even gotten here yet. It's set up over in Andrews Air Force Base. We've got about 8 or 9 folks that are here, but because of COVID and a few other operational delays, they will get here over the next 4 or 5 months. But I tell you, these airmen are incredible. It's a mix of officers, it's a mix of enlisted, and it goes from airmen. Literally, we have an A1C up to a chief. We've got some lieutenants up to lieutenant colonels. But the partnerships and their innovation and their energy is just unbelievable. Now, you'll note on the slide here that we've got a triple helix formation up there on the left. And that's there for a reason, because this really is what drives our partnerships with academia and industry and the other DoD organizations that we leverage to drive change and to do things differently. We have to change our culture, and we can't do it by ourselves. And like I mentioned before, all good things in logistics are done in process. So the Tesseract team is here to leverage theory of constraints, to identify our bottlenecks, to identify our constraints in logistics so that we can drive change. They can help solve problems. So, and they work directly for me. So if a constraint, pops up and it is dealing with process or policy, I can fix that, or a part of my staff can fix that. If the solution can be remedied through technology or IT solutions, it can be remedied through partnerships with the Rapid Sustainment Office, or PEO BESS, or AFWorks, or Kessel Run, or the Research Lab. The other job is for them to connect all of these ideas and the innovative ideas of the airmen around the globe to understand their innovations, to understand the challenges, to collect their ideas, and then turn them into solutions that can be scaled. Most importantly, I need them to institutionalize this innovative way of thought that we need to capitalize in our airmen. Like I said, the youngsters of today think differently than we do. So we need their help, and they know where our blind spots are. They're the ones that need to help us drive change. So moving to the next chart. So as we move to our path, where are we going? Like I said, we've got to capitalize on our high-powered airmen. Our job is to build leaders. And if we teach airmen problem-solving techniques and educating them with theory of constraints, that's how we're going to get there. That's how we're going to institutionalize, and that's how we're going to drive the culture change that we need in our logistics enterprise. Now, to formalize this, we've written TTPs, we've incorporated these concepts into all of our training and education programs. AFPIT's helping us, our schoolhouses are helping us, our organizations at Nellis are helping us. But bottom line is we're empowering our logistics enterprise to come up with new ways to automate our manual processes so that we can begin leveraging all these advanced technologies where we can. Now, I know change is hard. Everyone on this line knows that change is hard. So we have to change the culture. We have to unfreeze the frozen middle and empower these digital airmen. And training and empowering them so that they know and they understand the programs so that they can make things more efficient and adaptable, that's what's going to drive us to a tipping point in the DoD where we start driving and accelerating adoption and change. Now, this has already started working. Go ahead and move to the next chart. If you take a look at what we're trying to do to leverage our augmented and virtual reality, you know, if you look at training, nobody wants to be submersed in death by PowerPoint. Folks don't want to learn that way any longer. What if you could actually put a set of goggles on them and they can learn 10 times faster? And I can tell you we're doing this already. We're partnering with AATC to create a small team to modernize our training and education for our maintainers and our logisticians that are out there. Likewise, we've partnered with the Rapid Sustainment Office to get after advanced manufacturing, 3D printing, just to try to augment where we are with our Air Force supply chain demands. Now, having this sort of capability at the point of need is a huge capability. Now, we're not quite at the part where we're going to put 3D printers on the back of C-17s and go wherever we are just yet, but we can get there. Now, the journey has been a little slow, but we've had great partnership with the RSO and some of their events like the Additive Manufacturing Olympics. And we've already been able to deliver about 2,400 parts. About 375 of those are actually flying right now. To do this, though, we had to get our tech data packages straight. And so far, we've got about 325 of those that we've been put together in just the past year. And what we've decided to do is we're going to network our entire 3D printing capability. So just like we created repair networks and expanded those capabilities across our bases for the intermediate level maintenance, we're going to do the exact same sort of thing with the 3D printing capability in our Air Force. What a novel idea. Next, we've got artificial intelligence, and this is an area that has huge potential, and it's an area that we would love to partner with industry and academia to get after this challenge. If you look at what China and Russia is doing, I mean, China identified AI as the pinnacle of their 5-year plan, And Russia basically came out and said that whoever dominates in this domain basically gets to rule the world. So I will tell you that there are plenty of repetitive tasks in our logistics enterprise that could be automated, and then we need to pursue them. What if we put robotics in the back of the supply chain so that we can get the demands figured and we can figure out where the sourcing happens in a automated fashion, so that we can give time back to our airmen, and that those airmen can focus on the tasks and their readiness tasks that only they can do. Likewise, we've really invested in predictive maintenance technologies like CBM Plus and ERCM. Now, we've been doing this for a while now, and we're working on getting up to 16 different weapon systems and actively building various prototypes on about 1,500 different aircraft. Now, we're in the early stages on doing some of this, and we're fiscally challenged and trying to expand at the rate that we absolutely want to do this. But so far, we've saved about 5,000 troubleshooting hours. So it's working, and it's something that we're going to continue to pursue, because we have such potential there. And I'm not just talking aircraft. We have the ability to expand to vehicle fleets and integrating the supply chain. Bottom line, we're trying to apply innovations. We're applying technology, commercial practices, lessons learned from academia throughout maintenance and logistics, so that we can increase our readiness and reduce our costs. So what we're doing, though, is empowering our airmen through Tesseract and listening to their ideas. Because when we do, trust me when I tell you, those airmen feel valued and they start owning our mission. And trust me when I say success breeds success, because the first airman that you give a project to, and you listen to them and you support them and you give them the tools and resources they need to try their project, and it works, they walk 10 feet tall, and they start owning the system, and they start owning the organization. And as soon as it works for one, I guarantee you their brothers and sisters have ideas as too. And that's the type of change we're trying to do. We want to create a leadership team and an organizational construct where we listen to our airmen's ideas and they get to be part of the solution. Next slide. And so on this last slide here, you can kind of see what Dr. Roper says about needing our desire for change and the imperative for change. Quite frankly, it's really pretty clear. Given our resources that we have, and quite frankly, the fact that Air Force logistics really wasn't prepared to project and sustain in an NDS type of fight. So we were given the opportunity of a lifetime. Create the SSF. We took the opportunity to create Tesseract to drive the change through SSF, drive the change through our innovative airmen. And in doing so, we're really supporting what our chief has asked us to do. Accelerate, change, or lose. And in his words, he said, we basically had two options. We could admire our problem. We can talk about how tough it's going to be, how hard it would be, the decisions would be to make, or we could take action. Quite frankly, we had to take action. And that's exactly what we've done. We created the SSF. We created an implementation plan. We created the Tesseract team to get after. And what we've created additional readiness, additional capability, and a whole lot of energy throughout Log Nation. And it is my honor to be able to share that story with you and share with you the tremendous capabilities of our Tesseract team this morning. And so thanks. Ed, over to you.
Okay, Linda, thank you very much. That was very interesting. So we got some time for a couple of questions. And one of the ones I want to ask right off the bat is about culture change, because that's what this is really about. And it's a 180,000 person organization in logistics for the Air Force. How in the world do you change culture for 180,000 people?
Very slowly, but seriously, it's communicating and over communicating and networking. And when I mentioned that logistics is very much a team sport, we have to understand what each other does. We have to understand what it's like to walk in each other's shoes, and we have to communicate. Most importantly, we got to empower them, and we've got to help connect the dots. Our maintainers on the flight line generally don't know what's going on in the back shop, and they may or may not know what's going on in the warehouse or over in the munition shop or the supply side of the house. This disconnect is really what makes us more inefficient. And so the more we connect those dots, the better we're going to be. In terms of driving culture, honestly, I think this is where success breeds success. When we get successful prototypes, it just builds the energy, and then everybody wants to be part of the solution. The whole concept of theory of constraints has been unbelievably successful. And now, quite frankly, we can't scale fast enough because everybody wants in. What happened out at Fairchild was amazing. When we can deliver an average of 4 more KC-135s every single day, based on highlighting the white space in our processes, it's amazing. Everybody wants it, which is why we've done TTPs and institutionalized this through all of our education and training systems.
I think you covered some of the most promising initiatives that your team's working on, but are there any that you didn't point out in your presentation that are particularly poignant?
Yes. So, our airmen are incredible. And so I'll share a couple with you. So first and foremost, I will share MyCap Prime. And so everybody on this line has probably heard of Amazon Prime and the concept that is just instilled in all of our minds that your package is delivered to you in 2 days. Well, okay, why can't we do the same thing for aircraft parts, specifically our MyCaps? And so what our MyCap Prime effort is strategically producing effects in terms of aircraft availability by speeding the execution and speeding the distribution network for our MyCap parts. And we've been able to do that. In fact, we ran a test for the last 3 months, and we've got tremendous results. We worked on F-15s, KC-135s, and C-5s. And essentially, for the F-16s, we were able to move things about 21% faster just by streamlining the process and linking maintenance requirements, the supply chain requirements, and the distribution network, just by physically connecting the dots on something as simple as delivery. The next one, here's one that we've learned to emphasize more in COVID. Curbside delivery. So think of our distribution, our deployment and distribution process, where everybody has to rotate over to the LRS and pick up all their deployment gear. Well, what if we had an app and all your sizes and all your requirements and everything were in a system? You send it over to the LRS and you drive by, pick it up, and go. So we're creating an app. It's called Ursus, and it was developed by the team of airmen out of Joint Base Elmendorf-Richardson. And in doing so, it's still in prototype and we're still working through it. So we're not, I don't want to claim victory on this just yet, but we're saving about 1.5 hours to 2 hours on our airmen's time every time we got to go through a processing line. And oh, by the way, pretty much every single base has to do this. Another great success, this one is in partnership with Delta and GTRI. So just highlighting the fact that we've been partnering with our industry and academia partners is trying to come up with how do we streamline the process for the inspections that are needed for, in this case, the C5 landing gears. And what if we actually kitted all the things that are needed for maintenance capabilities? Now, this is not rocket scientists, although technically we have a rocket scientist literally actually helping us with this project. What if we actually had all the parts and all the tools and all the TOs and everything we needed in a kit and handed it to the maintenance, so the amount of time that an airman can spend fixing assets and our maintenance touch time can improve? And so that's something that we're kicking off. We've got some initial prototypes that we're doing out at Travis and Dover. So those are just 3 off the top of my head that we're really working on. We're working on putting on Wi-Fi out in the flight line so that we can have connectivity at the point of maintenance. And well, obviously theory of constraints is, quite frankly, the breadwinner and doing wonderful things.
All right, another question. We're coming, right on the edge of time here, but I want to get this one in. So once a bottleneck has been identified, how do you initiate a connection with a potential partner in private industry to be able to work on this type of thing? How does that come together?
So first and foremost, once we get the bottlenecks, we actually we're creating a process for how do we identify, okay, where's the gap? Is it a gap that industry or that we can learn from industry? And a lot of times what we're doing there is we partner with AFWorks or we partner with the Rapid Sustainment Office, and then we create an ability to statement so that folks can submit inputs into how we meet those ability tos. The other thing is we created a CSO type of contract specifically for Tesseract, specifically for the SSF. So if we have particular money and we have a particular problem that we want to solve, we put it on this particular contract and anyone can bid. And so in that way, we can get information back. On top of that, we have networks, our Tesseract airmen, even though our team's only about 15 folks strong, we have LNOs spread out all over our Air Force, including in industry out now. So the individuals that are out there with education with industry now serve as LNOs to our Tesseract team. So we can reach out and ask questions.
All right, so next, somebody asked if you would rank technologies in order of importance, and the ones they listed were AI, advanced manufacturing, and augmented versus virtual reality. And at the same time, I wanted to toss out to you, so I can squeeze it in here, what do you think is a timeline for seeing AI self-repair systems on aircraft?
Okay, I have literally no idea for that last one.
Okay.
But honestly, this would be a question I'd ask industry because I think they're a little bit farther ahead than we are. That would be a question I would ask the Deltas, the Southwests of the world, the United, even FedEx and UPS. I would ask them those questions. In terms of a batting order for some of those initiatives, I can tell you, our airmen are very interested in AR, VR because it's right there at their fingertips. For big change, though, in terms of driving big change, I think really getting after predictive maintenance and predictive analytics and really scaling what we need to do in terms of CBM Plus. Right now, we're challenged with the ability to fund everything that we want to do in that enterprise. I mean, imagine the capability if we could take unscheduled maintenance and turn it into scheduled maintenance. That's where we're trying to go. But to do that, we need the capability to scale CBM Plus. Our funding streams are a little shorter than we'd wish in order to prosecute that right now.
I wish that we had more time because questions have been coming in fast and furious. We could go over 30 minutes, but then they'd take me out and beat me up. So that's probably not what I would like. Linda, thank you very much. That was very enlightening. And we'll do this again. Tesseract sounds like a great thing. Love it. So thank you to everybody out there. This one's done. The next session is going to be military transitions, shifting over to a commercial world. So it's when you get out, how do you get in on the other side, right? So we'll see you back for that one at 11 o'clock. Thank you.